everybody, and welcome to episode 102 of On the Road with AutoTrader, where we make car stuff simple for Canadians. My name is Jodi and I'm the editor-in-chief of AutoTrader.
And my name is Dan Alika, and I am AutoTrader's road test editor.
And I'm Sebastian Bell, and apparently I'm here with a shock jock. I'm the associate editor. You've thrown me completely off, but I'm excited. No, it was great. It was
likes
great.
to keep people on their toes.
I'm just not professional enough to live up to your standards.
I just want to, start off with a little bit of a bang, set the precedent.
Yeah,
here.
because I always do my intro in the exact same way.
Your little flourish.
Yeah, and you like shake it up, which I love.
That's great.
So we're talking gas prices today because this is a hot topic of discussion because gas prices are so high right now. It's making everyone mad.
It really is.
I'm mad.
It is one of those interesting issues, and it's easy, I suppose. Look, I'm not saying I'm empathetic to, conspiracy theorists, but it's interesting when you see something like this happen and some of the rumors and whatever tales that start to be told, and you kind of see why people get all up in arms, that they're like, oh, this is just an excuse for these big mega corporations to jack the prices up. Because if you look at it, yes, okay, obviously it's a geopolitical issue. This war in the Middle East right now is what is leading to the spike in gas prices. But if you look at the actual supply, what is it? 30% of the world's oil and gas is passing through. Yes, that's a big chunk, but that still means 70% is coming from elsewhere. Yet this is what's leading to the spike. The reality is that it's because, the way that prices work is that when there's an issue affecting 30%, the rest of the world flocks to the 70% and starts bidding on that. And
30% is a large percentage.
Yes.
But my dad has also been on a rant about this, saying they had gas. I saw it. I saw them filling it last week. They had gas in the reservoir at the gas station. That gas, they paid that amount for.
Exactly. So, I do understand why people get upset because it's the Wizard of Oz thing. You're yelling at somebody that you can't see. It's a man behind a curtain making decisions. But reality is, geopolitical issues. Hey, go figure. Starting wars in different parts of the world affect things at home.
Yeah.
It really hit me because I have been waiting to fill up. I drive a diesel car. Right now, diesel is a lot more expensive than regular gas, which is annoying because when I bought my diesel was a lot cheaper and it was the more economical option. I remember a time when it was $40 to fill my tank. It is currently $120 to fill my tank.
Just a big old yikes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so painful. And I know I can still get like 800 kilometers to a tank. So at least that's a little bit helpful, but ouch.
But I feel bad for the freelancers too. For our freelancers, we were thinking of assigning a diesel pickup truck to somebody, and filling the tank would have cost $200. And
that's a huge chunk of their That's so. I guess to Seb's point, and for those of you listening and watching that aren't familiar with how this works, is when we review cars, we fill them up ourselves. Different markets work differently. So in the U.S. Press cars, what we call press cars, the vehicles we test are delivered to the journalists' homes, and basically they get picked up again on Monday, and no matter how much fuel is in the tank, that's how you leave it. With us, we get it with it's like a rental car. Think of it that way. We pick it up with a full tank of gas, and we're supposed to return it with a full tank of gas, so we have to fill it up. Now, we're lucky in our position that we can expense it because it's a business purpose, but for freelancers who contribute to us and other outlets, that's on them. That's coming out of their pockets. Yeah. So to say to somebody, hey, go drive this vehicle with a 120-liter fuel tank, and that's on you, suddenly that review
is a significant portion of the review.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of them are going to be booking more hybrids and electric vehicles.
Yeah. Now, this is something that we've seen a lot of ebbs and flows with. As observers of the industry, but then also that insight of working at a place like AutoTrader, where we see a lot of research, and we're pretty close, personally and professionally, with different departments and different people at the company, including Baruch Akurek, who's our VP of Insights and
Data Wonk, I think is his correct title.
That's the title. Yeah. But to watch the EV interest surge in terms of research, people actively seeking electric vehicles, which sounds crazy that a spike in gas prices, which we know is temporary, will lead to this. But it also shows you that these decisions, I hate to shame people, but these decisions of driving Ford F-150s when you don't need to as your daily driver, and then all of a sudden going, oh my God, this thing is killing me that I have to fill it up every week. It's like, yeah, you chose that life. I didn't make you drive an F-150, you know?
Yeah, but it's a good reminder to think about that the world is changing. And like, yes, just because you can afford something now doesn't mean that it will always be easy to afford.
Absolutely.
So it is something to think about.
But regardless of whether you drive a Golf, diesel, or an F-150, you know, the goal of this episode is to provide some simple tips that should help you, you know, maybe maximize your fuel, you know, budget every week, because the one thing is there's no if you see an ad online or read something somewhere about some sort of additive or some sort of device that you plug in that's going to improve your fuel economy, I'm telling you right now, that is bogus. That is a lie. There is no such thing. I hate to break it to you. I know it's heartbreaking. Just like people who think, ooh, I'm going to treat my car and put some premium in and it's going to run a little cleaner.
Useless.
No, lie. That is not how this works. So we are here to, I guess, dispel some myths as well as provide some actual sound advice.
Totally.
Yeah, because every little bit helps. And especially, like, we know that everything is very expensive right now. So, like, I think all these little changes you can make can maybe add up, give you a little bit more in your wallet at the end of the day.
I will say that going through this and doing some of my own calculations, which is always a dangerous thing for an English major to do, it did make me realize that it's a game of you have to do a lot of things to get big savings because everything is saving pennies. And like over the course of a year, it does add up. But each individual piece of advice is like, it's saving you what looks like a small amount of money, but when you add it all.
Absolutely. And that's the problem with this, right? Is people are looking for that short-term, you know, just solve all solution.
And you can understand why when your tank of gas all of a sudden costs $120.
Absolutely, but that's just not how it works. But I mean, the one that I would start with, whether gas prices are super high or whether they're low, is make sure your tires are inflated properly.
It's a great one.
Yep, that one makes a lot of sense. So CBC says that for every 5 PSI of tire pressure that is under optimal, you lose about 2% of your gas mileage.
Yeah. Now, the other side of that is don't start overinflating your tires. The basics of this. So if you look at the side of your tire, there is a tire pressure range that's on there, and it can be quite a wide range, like 55 to 120 PSI. That's not what you're going by. You're going to open your driver's side door. There's going to be a little sticker or a little plaque in there, and that's going to tell you the proper that's your inflation guide for the tires on your vehicle. That'll be the cold pressure. So yeah, it sucks because if you don't live immediately close to a gas station or have a compressor at home, you know, it is going to warm up a little bit between when you leave home and when you get there, because air molecules, that's how they work, right? They get warm, they expand. But that's your cold pressure. So go to that. And usually most cars, 32 to 35 PSI is what you're looking for. That means right now, I would say, go, if it says 35, aim for that 35 PSI, because you want to make sure that you have as little rolling resistance as possible.
And I'll say, I really like this piece of advice because it's cheap.
Yes.
And a lot of these pieces of advice save you a tiny bit of gas, but like, whatever, if you're going to the gas station, it's $1 or $2 to fill up your tires. If you have a compressor at home, bonus, it's free.
Yeah.
I have pumped up tires with a bicycle pump before, and it takes a while, but
it's
it works.
Hey,
it's a workout.
Double benefit.
Arm day.
Yes.
There you go.
Yep.
Yes. But yeah, and it is actually an easy and cheap way to save some money. So that's a really great one.
Now, I mean, I guess sort of the good news here is that in most of the country, you know, we're coming out of the worst of winter because in the cold. And this is why nitrogen tire fill is it had a really big kind of moment in the spotlight. It's kind of faded a little bit, but the simple way to look at it, nitrogen molecules are bigger. So they don't leak. They're not as prone to leaking. And that's why winter tires, you know, that's if you were going to do nitrogen fill, I would recommend winter tires. But the nice thing is now that we're hitting spring, you're not going to see that pressure drop. Yeah. We've all seen it. You get home and tires look fine. You get up the next morning and you look outside. You're like, why does that one look like it's down? And sure enough, it's like 7 or 8 PSI lower than when you parked it the night before, because it's cold and that air escapes.
Yeah.
So make sure your tires are optimally pressurized.
Yeah.
And it will help.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's not just a fuel economy, fuel savings things. It's also a safety thing as
Absolutely.
well, right? So it's just like
Responsiveness.
very responsible to
Yeah.
keep your tires at optimal pressure.
I suppose another, this is maybe a little bit more expensive.
Mhm.
We're talking about cheap fixes, but, making sure your vehicle is running properly, that you're following, the service schedule, not just oil changes. You got to think, especially now, so many vehicles are all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
All of those components also have oil in them.
Totally.
These are high wear friction components that if you don't have them properly lubricated, they are going to not only wear down, but run less efficiently.
Totally.
So look at your owner's manual or look it up online and make sure. And if you've got, 100,000 kilometers, that service schedule might tell you that it's time to service your transfer case or your rear differential.
Right.
It's expensive, but you will realize how much of a difference it makes when the vehicle is running the way it's supposed to be.
Totally. And the benefit of that isn't just to your fuel, how much you're spending on fuel. It is also to how long your vehicle lasts.
Absolutely.
So it is a double benefit. And maybe you won't make it up in gas savings, but that is a bonus that you're getting on top of that.
Absolutely.
But similarly to your point, I was looking at dirty air filters.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a good one. So I found a lot of data on this, and some of it was not contradictory, but it was all over the place. But the best data I could find was that you can save 2 to 11% by changing a dirty air filter out.
Wow.
So I did the math on what that would be on a Honda CR-V. Figured that's a pretty good, normal car that a lot of people have. Enercan suggests that you'll spend $2,520 a year on fuel filling it up, and so 2 to 11% is $50 to $277.
Yeah.
For a part that is $20, I looked it up.
Yep.
That's, you're making money.
And honestly, changing an air filter, I mean, generally speaking, if you go to either a dealer or, even a quick lube place, they will or should be checking that air filter. And if they recommend it, two things. A, if you're skeptical, you think they're trying to upcharge you, whatever. I say it's unlikely, but sure. Ask them to see it. Get them to show you because they've taken it out and you can tell whether it's clean or it's dirty. I do recommend that one. The other thing, it's not going to save you anything in terms of fuel economy, but cabin air filters are another thing that people don't change as frequently as they should. Yeah. They're also often very easy to find. Usually they're behind your glove box. Mm-hmm. So if you are at home, I don't know, let's say you're doing your winter tire changeover because it's spring, open your glove box. There's usually 2 little twist caps on either side. Once you pull those out, that'll drop the glove box further, and tucked away inside, you'll see 2 little tabs. You can pull your cabin air filter out. And I bet you the dust and leaves and stuff in that, it will gross you out. Go pick one of those up, and that will mean that you're breathing cleaner air in your vehicle.
And this is something you don't even need tools for most of the time.
Yeah, and both the cabin air and the engine air filter, reasonably easy to fix yourself.
So easy.
And there are all kinds of advice videos online if you want to watch them. You can definitely get a how-to on WikiHow for how to do it.
And it'll make you feel good. Even stuff this simple. Being able to do something yourself does feel good. It's rewarding at the end of the day. And then it's the benefit of 2 to 11% savings.
Yeah, and that's across a wide variety of vehicles. Hybrids, you save less.
Of course.
You save more.
Yeah.
And carbureted engines. But if you have a carbureted engine, you're not saving fuel.
And EVs, you don't have an engine air filter at all.
Well, exactly.
But you have a cabin air filter. And I think this is a problem. I know I'm getting off on a tangerine here, but this idea that the regularly Seb, that really got him.
It was the delivery as well as the tangerine. It was good. Sorry.
The idea of these routine maintenance schedules that with EVs people aren't following the way you would, because back in the day, way back in the day, it was even less, but I'd say 5,000 kilometers between oil changes was kind of the norm. And now as synthetics have gone mainstream and engines have just gotten better, you're looking at 8, 10, 12, 15,000 kilometers between oil changes. But that was still an opportunity for a technician or a mechanic to give your vehicle a once-over, check the brakes, check the air filter, check the cabin air filter.
Totally.
With EVs, you're not getting it serviced as often, and something like a cabin air filter
Right.
is going to be neglected for potentially
Way longer.
tens of thousands. And you don't get me wrong, you're not replacing your cabin air filter every time you do an oil change, but it's still an opportunity to check the condition of
Right.
it.
Mhm.
And with EVs, you are not doing that, because brakes are another thing. With regen
Totally,
braking,
yeah.
you don't have to use your mechanical brakes, your friction brakes, almost at all. But it means that your brakes are going to have to be replaced because of lack of use.
Totally. This goes to my theory that EV vehicles, EVs especially, are contraptions that we treat as gizmos.
Yes.
So it's
And not as cars.
it's like a the idea being that a contraption is something complicated and mechanical that you
Right.
go, whereas a gizmo is a phone or something
Yeah.
electronic. And increasingly we're treating cars as gizmos, which you interact with them as a gizmo.
Yeah.
But you still have to do brakes, you still have to do
Yes.
cabin air filters. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. It's still a very complicated machine.
And that's another thing, right? Where I do think the idea of I'm not going to encourage somebody to take if you have a friend or a family member who you trust that's doing your oil changes, fine. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't do that, but just make sure that two things: A, you're still checking all of those other components. It's not just your oil that's being changed. And B, from a safety perspective, you should still be having it looked at by somebody who knows what they're doing, and quite honestly, that has, kind of more riding on it, because
Right.
doing it yourself is fine. Again, I don't do it at my current place, but I used to change my own oil. That's all fine and good, but I'm also doing something that, I trust myself, and I know that if there's something going on, I'm going to get it looked at, get that second opinion.
Totally.
There is a safety, implication that comes with not ever having a professional mechanic look at it
Totally.
who if they okay your vehicle and there's something wrong with it, there are implications down the road for them,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And whereas your friend or doing it yourself, you're running that risk of missing something.
Absolutely. And there's a professional mechanic who is also good and trustworthy. It's worth
Invaluable.
so
Oh my
much.
God.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my biggest tips, and I think one that you can see the most immediate results, is like stop idling your car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So according to the math, like anything longer than 10 seconds, if you're planning to be stopped for more than 10 seconds, just turn off the engine
Yeah.
and just sit there without the
Yes.
engine running.
Now, obviously, this does not, we're not encouraging you to turn off your engines at stoplights.
No, don't do that. But I'm
That's
saying like
dangerous.
if you're waiting for a passenger, like if there's
Yes.
a train crossing and you have to
Yes.
sit there and wait, if you're in the
Absolutely.
drive-through,
Yeah.
in the car wash.
Or the other thing, because so many modern vehicles have ignition stop-start systems, and I know it is a huge, it's a controversial thing. And in the U.S., there's the movement to eliminate ignition stop-start because it's annoying. And okay, part of it, yes, people say, well, it wears the starter motor, and there is some truth to that.
Sure.
Engines that weren't designed around ignition stop-start, when it was added after the fact,
Totally.
you saw more wear because it is jarring. Starting a vehicle,
It's hard work.
it's very hard work. It takes its toll. But modern engines that are designed, they're integrated systems, there isn't any of that issue. And I'll tell you something else. I drive a Subaru Forester. It has a boxer engine. For those of you who don't know, horizontally opposed, the pistons move side to side instead of up or down or in a V or any of these other formats. It is the one of the downsides to a boxer is it's jarring. Because the pistons are moving side to side, it really rocks the vehicle when you start it up. I have the most annoying ignition stop-start system on the planet, but I leave it on.
Yeah.
And the nice thing in my Subaru, there is a little counter in the digital display.
That's so fun.
It is awesome, and it gives you a running tally of how much fuel it's saving. Yes, it's in the milliliters at a time, but over the course of a tank of gas, it adds up.
Even a tank, eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You see it. Like, I'll see, especially on like, let's say, I don't know, driving to the podcast, more stop and go traffic lights. I come pick you up, Jodi. That'll be like 100 milliliters of fuel that I've saved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so nice to see it tangibly added up
Exactly.
like that. And so if you do the math, like 15 minutes of idling every day throughout the year will waste roughly 110 liters of gas throughout that year. That's $190 just burning away for no reason.
Yeah. But this is the problem. Just like the whole idea of people driving trucks just because is it seems like small potatoes.
Yeah.
But when you look at the rising prices of everything else, and that's the other thing. fuel prices don't just affect you when you're filling up your car.
Totally.
Everything is going to cost more. Groceries are, because how does it get to the grocery store?
Right.
A truck, a train,
Yeah.
a boat, all of this stuff takes fuel.
Yeah.
You know, the airline tickets are soon to cost more because, hey, those planes run on fuel.
Totally.
So this idea that hopefully there is that knock-on effect where $120 might not seem like much, but it is. This leads me to my favorite rant. Stop using remote start.
Yep,
Okay.
he said it once, he'll say it again.
It is the devil's work. I hate remote start more than anything else. I've said it before on the show. It is the single worst invention in automotive history.
So wasteful.
It is disgusting. It is unnecessary. And I know it's cold. I get it. I'm cold too. I don't like to get in a car that isn't warmed up. But guess what? Go drive for 5 minutes and it's warm. It is the laziest thing that I could possibly imagine.
So when we were talking about doing this podcast, I was thinking like, what about, okay, so you want to warm up the cabin. I hear you. Put a coat on. That's fine. But there's an argument to be made that you should start the engine and let it run for a little bit to let it warm up because that can make things last longer. But all of the best mechanics advice I can find is that it just takes 30 seconds.
That's it. That's what I was going to say. That is the kind of magic number. Don't drive immediately, and then you drive, a little gentler as the vehicle is warming up.
Totally.
Another thing that Subaru does right, there is a little icon in my instrument display that's a cold engine icon.
Yeah.
So you know that you shouldn't be over revving it and really pushing it, accelerating from stoplight to stoplight, nice and gentle. And I mean, I'm like that regardless, but it is that nice reminder that, hey, this thing needs to be treated delicately because it's not running optimally yet.
Absolutely.
But
and
remote start is awful, and I hate it. It makes no sense. It is lazy. It's disgusting. It is the drive-through of automotive technology.
Yeah,
Stop
lazy.
going through the drive-through. This is another thing.
Yeah.
Stop going to the drive-through. If you want to save fuel, go in.
get out.
It's also
Park your
faster
car.
to go in.
Yeah.
In the mornings when I see people lined up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
It's wild,
man?
yeah.
Like, why? And this is another thing. So, okay, you're already spending money. That coffee's going to cost more because there's going to be this fuel surcharge anyways. So not only are you going to be spending more on your coffee, but you're just burning gas while you sit there in the drive-through.
And time. You're wasting time.
It is just silly.
Well, speaking of burning gas while you're sitting around, we were talking yesterday about seeing people line up for fuel,
Yes.
which, got me wondering, how much do you have to, what's the changeover there for how long can you wait for every penny of fuel?
Yeah.
I think my numbers were a little lower than yours.
Okay.
I looked at the province of Quebec and they said that you burn about 0.6 of a liter per minute of idling per liter of displacement in your
Okay.
engine.
Okay.
So what that means is if you have an economy car with a 2-liter engine, how long do you think for every penny less a liter gas costs, how long do you think you can wait in a 2-liter engine
That's a
with a
good
60-liter
question.
tank? Okay, with a 60-liter tank, it becomes less valuable to do it after 20 minutes.
Okay.
With a 40-liter tank like my car, 13 minutes.
Okay.
13 of idling?
Of idling, of waiting around.
Then it offsets, basically, then you may as well just go to the place that costs a little more.
You may as well not wait.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Also, this is I want to add that this is not accounting for little movements that you're doing. It's not accounting. So, this is the best case scenario.
Right.
Realistically, you're spending more fuel than this. If you have, I did the math also with a F-150 with a V8 engine and a 98-liter tank.
Yeah.
You have 9 minutes 11 minutes according to my
Okay.
math.
You know
Which
what?
again, very dangerous to let an English major loose with a calculator.
This conversation also brings me to something that I wonder about a lot.
Mhm.
I don't have a Costco membership,
Yep.
but I see the lines at the Costco gas stations,
They're
and I'm
huge.
like, man,
Yeah.
how? And I've wondered at kind of peak, or like valleys of fuel prices, like how much are you really saving? Let's
Right.
say it's 5 cents a liter less, and you sit there for 20 minutes just to fuel up. And I don't know, I'm not like a time is money, gotta go kind of guy, but I kind of value my time that I'm like, is it really worth sitting there for 20 minutes. And my dad will be like, no, they move along pretty quick. And
The Castro line does move around. I have been a
True.
passenger. Same thing. My dad is just like, no, hold on. Let me show you.
But I'm like, how much are you really? So that's okay, in a 50-liter tank, and let's say it's 5 cents a liter cheaper, and you're adding 40 liters.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that is the other thing. Yeah. I'm talking about filling up a tank completely. So yeah. And also, I'm not a liner-upper for things.
No. I'll go to the next station if
My time is more valuable than that, I feel like.
But like even for restaurants, even for like, bougie treats, I'm just like, no, I'm not. That croissant, there's another one down the street.
That's like the whole thing about people lining up. Somebody was telling me this story that they were in New York and they were walking along and there was like a 1,000,000-mile lineup down the street and around the corner, and they had no idea what it was. It was this nondescript building. So they got to the end and they asked these 2 girls, like early 20s, like, hey, what are you guys lined up for? And they were like, oh, we don't know. We just saw the line, so we got in.
That's ridiculous.
They
to
will
me.
line up, just so
people love lining up for stuff.
Seb is the total opposite of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I
He'll
avoid
run
lineups.
in the other direction of a lineup.
I'm the same way.
I'm not a queuer.
Anyways, what other tips we got, Jodi?
This one seems obvious, but like stop speeding.
Oh yeah.
I feel like this one's really obvious for safety reasons, but also like the faster you go, the more fuel you're burning. Kind of simple.
But also the way that aerodynamics works is that the more fast you go, the more air resistance you get, but it's like multiplicative.
Yes.
So if you're going 50 kilometers an hour versus 120 kilometers an hour, that's 4 times more air resistance.
Yes.
It's not twice or whatever.
Yeah,
it's not twice
and
as much.
there is the sort of let's say like that golden ratio of your vehicle running optimally.
Right.
So because you know, in looking at big and heavy vehicles, there is that certain if it's got a V8, you know, at low speeds, it's going to be burning a lot more fuel. And then once it's out on the highway and it can run at very low RPMs versus a smaller vehicle that around town is barely running,
zipping
but
around.
then out on the highway, it's like the needle is at 3,500 RPM because it needs that engine speed in order to maintain whatever speed you want to travel. But yeah, like, for me, you know, and I guess this is technically an admission of speeding, but if I'm on the 401, Jodi, you've driven with me countless times. I am a 110 on the highway, flow of traffic kind of guy. Because slower than that, you are disrupting other people.
It's dangerous.
You're pissing people off. And especially then you're constantly finding yourself in that situation where you need to merge in order for people that are getting on the highway to get out of their way. So for me, 110 is a safe number where you're going fast enough, but you're not going too fast. And I also find, and my car is a good example, this Forester, it's a Forester Wilderness, all-terrain tires, different, you know, gearing, all that stuff adds up to burning a little bit more fuel. But that 110 number on the highway, it means I can have that thing down to like 8.2 liters per 100 kilometers.
That's not bad at all.
Versus the, 9.8 that it's supposed to. Like it is quite significant. So I can realize some serious savings by driving it in that sweet spot.
Yeah. Okay.
Finding
So
that speed.
Natural Resources Canada says that you'll use about 1% more fuel for every 1 kilometer an hour over 100 kilometers an hour. So if you're driving like 120 versus 100, that's 20% more fuel that you're
I am not
wasting.
doubting you. I'm that to Enercan, that seems a little bit,
It's a convenient number.
Yeah, and it's like a blanket statement that we're trusting the government to say, hey, if you exceed the speed limit, because that means, okay, so are you telling me that they're saying in places like Ontario, some of our highways now have 110, Quebec, other, Alberta, there are jurisdictions all over this country that have speed limits of 110. So you're saying that that's not an optimal speed limit for...
Well, that's why the speed limits came in the first place. It was during the fuel crisis.
Yeah.
It wasn't for safety.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm calling, I think, again, there's a sweet spot. There's a good number. I don't think 100 is necessarily that good number, although in some vehicles,
and it's
very
different
well
for
could
every
be.
car, right?
Exactly.
For sure.
But just the point is, doing 130 on the highway, it doesn't matter what size engine you have and what size vehicle you're driving, that's going to burn more fuel than doing 105 or 110. That's just a reality.
What's another good one? Remove any accessories you're not using, like roof racks, like roof boxes, cargo boxes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like if you have a bag of sand in your vehicle, probably just get rid of it.
All right.
That's a good point.
Extra weight is it makes it uses up
Oh, and
more
as
fuel.
a convenient aside, Jody's currently building a sandbox, so you can direct all of that sand to.
Care of Jodi Live.
Thanks.
Yes, and also like roof racks and stuff give you a aerodynamic penalty.
Oh,
That's
it's
pretty
so bad.
significant.
It's
So,
also loud.
yes.
Yeah, I had a roof basket on my Outback, and then when I
It
got
looks so cool.
I know,
it
and I
really
got
does.
my Golf, and then I needed to put my bike rack on top because I didn't
Right.
have a hitch. So I was like, well, what am I going to do with this roof basket? Well, my parents also drive an Outback, so
you
now
go.
my parents have been using this roof basket. I think they've used it once or twice for actual cargo.
Yeah.
but it looks badass.
Looks so cool.
I always
So-
respect a Subaru with the roof basket.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, they know what's up.
Yeah.
Do you have any more quick tips or myths before we go to our Ask an Expert?
Yes, if I didn't mention it, stop using remote start.
And on that note, before our Ask an Expert, here's a message from your friends at AutoTrader. We at Own the Road love making car stuff simple for Canadians, and the AutoTrader app does the exact same thing. Sign up for price drop notifications, find out how much your car is worth, get an instant cash offer from a vetted dealership, get all your expert advice, and more. Download the AutoTrader app today. Today's Ask an Expert comes from Kevin. He listened to our episode 100, where we talk about the ideas we have to fix and change the automotive industry.
Yes.
He writes, hello, the changes I would like to see in the automotive industry is bring back basic vehicles, take away all these distracting infotainment systems, all the push buttons, bring back physical knobs. I totally agree with your point that rear lights should come on automatically when a vehicle is started.
I knew Kevin was a smart guy.
Kevin knows what's up. You do not need automatic lights. So many people drive around in the dark and fog with no rear lights.
Yes.
Vehicles should also have a spare tire. These flat repair tire kits are useless and don't work. If you do use them, they are very expensive to replace. You should just be able to buy a front-wheel drive vehicle from manufacturers. He's got a lot of ideas in
Yes.
here. We do not need all-wheel drive for normal, everyday driving.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
I think, Kevin, you've made some good points. Some of them, I understand. The spare tire thing, there's lots of grumpy people out there. I do agree, but the reality is, I've said it, before, and I'll say it again. Car companies aren't in the business of giving things away, and inflator kits are cheaper.
And lighter. So
and
they
lighter.
Save you fuel.
So they save, they save you fuel, they save them fuel, because part of it really is, when they're doing their testing, their instrumented testing for fuel economy, that extra weight penalty matters.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at electric vehicles and hybrids with rear electric motors. There just isn't space for spare tires. And sure, it looked cool. Vehicles like the old Jeep Cherokee, the XJ, that had the spare tire mounted in the cargo area.
Yeah.
But that takes up a lot of your cargo.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going to put these, unless we do it like the old Subaru way, because they were boxer engines. The
But on
spares
top of the
used to be mounted under the hood.
Yep.
That's those. So
There was
sick.
enough space in
Yeah.
there
So
back
cool.
then.
Yeah, that looks cool.
And then I agree about the basic vehicles. My hot take is that, what's that, Slate truck or whatever? That's not going to become a thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody that goes,
Jeff Bezos would never lie to us. Jeffrey.
everybody who says that's all they want then goes, yeah, but I want heated seats.
And I want
But
Bluetooth.
I want Bluetooth. Oh, you know what? Apple Car, but I do like having Google Maps. And then all of a sudden you've added all this cost and all this complexity. I agree with the distracting infotainment systems. But the other thing is, and I've used this example in the past, but Kevin, in case you didn't listen to this episode, a good example of how it's beneficial, okay, is Subaru, when it launched its 11.6-inch portrait-oriented touchscreen, which is trash, and the brand has moved back to landscape, and thank God for that. But when it moved to that 11.6 screen, it moved its ignition stop-start. It was in a menu. It was buried.
Yeah.
I worked there at the time. I worked at Subaru Canada. We had gone to Japan, and we were like, what's going on here? This is terrible. And they're like, no, it's fine. And then the customer feedback was awful. They were able to push through an update. So, I don't know, 6 months, a year later, when you went into the dealer, you got an update. Nobody told you it was going to happen. It just happened. And it moved that icon to the home screen on that infotainment screen. And that is something that cannot be done with physical controls.
Very true.
So I understand it maybe seems like a fringe example, but it's a good example of that customizability that comes with these touchscreen infotainment systems that you don't get with physical switchgear.
I think that it is evidence of the fact that we are in a position, we're at a point of transition with infotainment where we're going to screens and that's sort of becoming the usual.
Yes.
But we're still learning how to do that.
Absolutely.
And like, I agree with you that there's a lot of room for improvement, but I think that we are like infotainment or whatever, touch screens have gotten a lot better in cars over the last 5-10 years.
Even if you look at their position in the car, you're seeing them mounted lower. They're less distracting. For years, they were stuck on there. Everybody used to, it looks like an iPad glued to and it was true.
Yeah.
But now whether you're talking premium or mainstream, you're seeing them mounted so low that when you're driving, you have to actively look down at it. And it means that your eyes are up and on the road where they should be. And I like that.
Totally.
Just like anything, car companies and the people that work there are not perfect.
Yeah.
They don't always get it right, but they aren't these big bad guys who are out to screw you over. And they do, because the people that work there are drivers too. And they want to improve these vehicles, not only for you, but for themselves and their families.
Totally.
So we are seeing those improvements. It's complicated. Just like anything, it's that old cruise ship analogy. How long does it take to steer a ship, right? So implementing those changes take time. I think there is a happy medium. Kevin is right in terms of limiting distraction, but I do think touch infotainment, especially given how reliant we are on these phones, it's never going away.
Well, and I think that's why they made the switch over to begin with. Because they're like, oh, this is a user interface that everyone's already familiar with. But then where they strayed was that they tried to overcomplicate it, right? And so I think if they really think about how people interact with phones and put that experience on an infotainment system, I think it would help.
My final point about it, that's why I'm happy to see, car companies what they're good at is building cars. What they're not so good at is the interface.
Software.
So relying on Apple and Google to do the thing that matters. And it's why, Apple tried to do Maps. I know it still offers Apple Maps, but it is awful. So it even finally went, okay, we white flag was raised. Google wins. Google's really good at that, had that head start and just crushed it. It's the same thing with car companies. For whatever reason, their infotainment systems are largely trash. So they finally said to Google, you know what, you win. Do it your way, and we will integrate that within the vehicle. Now, I think that there are companies like General Motors going too far, getting rid of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto.
Yeah.
I know that there's that argument to be made that it's so that you use the integrated maps, which gives you in an EV, gives you that proper range estimate and all that stuff. But to me, it's all about data harvesting.
Totally.
And I like that most other companies are still, even with that Google built-in system, are still allowing you to hook your phone up if you would prefer.
Yeah.
So I do think that we're working towards a better future. Wow, what a positive note.
I love ending on a positive note. Thank you, Kevin, for your comments.
Thank you so much.
If any of you would like to share your thoughts or have questions for our experts, you can email expert@trader.ca. But that closes out this episode. Drive safe, drive efficiently, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.